it's like, my ego is running wild, but there's a point where now, if you ever want to, if there's something where you want to go with our conversation, feel free to interrupt because I'll just keep on rambling.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Well, there is one thing I want. Well, I wrote a list of things, but I wanted to know about a little bit about if you could share. I saw that you had shared something about your DNA and your history or your genetics, right? That it wasn't
Hmm.
what you thought it should be.
Yeah,
And I can
yeah.
kind of relate to that in some way. So was wondering if you would share that story, a little bit of that
Well,
story.
it is extreme. It's related fairly heavily to my father's side. It's like, so the first couple tests I got, which I'm in the process of getting another one to kind of verify it because it's just kind of, I don't know if I'm dubious of the company that these two companies have done it, but I've talked to some, biologists or DNA experts on this, and they kind of said, well, this is the only way this could be. But it's like 96, 94% Scandinavian on these two tests that they've been, and which means that there's only 4% left to be English, which is my mother's side,
Okay.
right?
Okay.
And so how could it be so one-sided? So I talked to a geneticist about it, and he says, well, your mom's like your fourth cousin if these results are correct. And I'm like, how? What?
How does that make sense? Yeah.
Doesn't make any sense whatsoever. Right now, I had two independent tests done on this, and they both come up the same. I'm waiting. I just did another one here recently, so I'm waiting on that third test to see what that will do because it's I can't explain that.
Yeah, that's
Either
strange.
they messed up on the test, or if it's really the way that it is, to where my mom would be like a second cousin to me.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
that
How
I
does
don't.
that happen if you
How
know
does
that you
that?
were born from
Yeah,
her?
I know I was born from her, and
Yeah.
the birth certificate says that, and there's nothing anywhere along the line. I mean, I had a certificate of live birth that was given to her in the hospital with my footprint on it. It's like
Yeah.
it's it happened because I was watching it. So I'm kind of waiting for the results of this third test to see if that's indeed actually what happened. I'm confused.
Well, I thought that was
Yeah.
fascinating when I heard that because I've always been told personally that my dad is German and English from
Hmm.
his dad and his mother, and my mother is Eastern European and Scandinavian. Okay,
Yeah.
so from her grandparents or her parent anyway, that lineage. And so I had a actually my brother bought it for me as a gift. I never thought of ever doing it that type of a test, and he did it, and it turns out that I don't. They're not showing any. It wasn't showing any German or English. It showed 32% Irish because nobody has claimed any Irish blood out of my
That's very
family.
Celtic. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
I know.
and
It's
Scandinavian. Yeah,
it is the same way because I know my grandfather moved from Denmark with my grandmother, who was Norwegian, back in 1939 before World War II started, and they moved to Wisconsin. So I know the history on that side, and I know the history on my biological mother's side, where she came from. I mean, there's just no doubt about it. She's English as you want to get, you
yeah,
know,
yeah.
and
It's crazy.
I don't know. It's crazy.
So
So I'm getting a more comprehensive results.
okay.
It's off in the mail waiting to come back, but
Okay. Yeah. So do
yeah,
you mentioned I wish you would expand on you mentioned that you saw your birth. Is that what you said?
I saw right before I was being born as she was giving in the hospital going into labor. Okay.
Okay,
I
so you
saw
saw that from outside.
outside. I saw the nurse in the room. It is very much a 50s type of nurse. She's got the high heels on, and not the high heels, the white shoes, and she's got the white candy, not candy stripe, but the dress with the red stripes on it. And she's got this weird little hat that she's
Cap. Yeah.
wearing. Yeah, this little cap that they wore back in the time. And the doctor comes walking in, and they're flipping through the charts, and then he's up here talking to me, and then that's where it all kind of comes to head. And after that, I'm not sure what
Who's up
I
there
was
talking
going.
to you? Your gray being?
The
Oh,
gray
okay.
being. Yeah, yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Does he feel like a father for you, or some kind of a
He would be more
teacher?
like a mentor.
Okay.
Yeah, he's not a he's not one of those biological computers. He's a real being. I
Right.
mean,
Yeah.
they do have the biological computer ones that come in, and they'll come into a room and they'll take you, and they're pre-programmed. They know what to do. They know how to handle the situation. But if you break out of the containment, then they freak out and they don't know what to do. Because
Wow.
they don't have the ability
This
to
does
be
not
able to.
compute.
Yeah, it is not computing, man. I don't know what to do. And Travis Walton had that same thing happen to him when he was on the ship, and he had that thing placed on his chest. I'm convinced that they were there to save his life, is
Yeah.
why he was on the ship.
Yeah.
And when the beings came into the room with him, and then he freaks out and he jumps up, it's like, oh my God, how do we compute? We can't compute. So they left, they go back and they talk to their mentors, who are human looking Nordics, to come in and calm the situation down.
Okay.
So he is very much an individual that can, I call him a he because that's the energy I get from him, is
Mm-hmm.
he can rationally think and communicate and all that kind of stuff. So, but
Mm-hmm.
the one who seems more like a father to me is a guy I call Raphael. He calls himself Raphael, and he's very much a human looking, but I think he's more of an Anunnaki type of. He's very, very stern. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, he looks at with the first time I saw him was in a dream. And a lot of people, well, it's not really a dream. I call them experiences. And dreams are something that I contribute to. Your subconscious self is talking to your conscious self, trying to communicate an idea or a thought to you.
Right.
And it's one of those things where you have to wake up and you write it down on paper,
Yeah.
right? Say, okay, I gotta remember this because, halfway through the day it's gone. You
It's
forgot
gone.
it. You
Yeah.
say, "God, what was that?" But when your unconscious self talks to the conscious self, you're communicating that way. I believe that is more of an experience you're having, and it sticks with you. You remember
Mm-hmm.
it for the rest of your life a lot of
Right.
times.
Right.
And so I was actually having a dream. He shows in, he comes in and shows in, stands in front of me. I'm like, oh my God, because the energy is just so overpowering. It's kind of like an angel energy. It's where he'll stare
Yeah.
at you and he's looking right through your soul,
Wow.
and you just totally unmask, and he is like he knows everything about you. He can see everything about you, type of thing. Yeah, and it's
Yeah.
just a really overpowering stare. Yeah, it's like having a big cat look at you like he's going to come and eat you for lunch or something. It's like
Wow. That's
really so.
crazy.
So he calls himself Raphael, but he says, "I'm not the angel. Don't confuse me with the angel. It's just my
Even
name."
though you look like an angel, you're not the
Yeah,
angel.
he says, "Don't. I'm not the type of angel that you think I am. I'm just that's happens to be my name. All right.
Right. Right. Yeah.
Just like somebody who's Hispanic may call themselves Jesus.
Jesus.
It's
Yeah,
not the
totally.
Jesus. So it's just my name, right? And I was in the bathroom one night, late night, after I'd got off work, spent out 12-hour day or something like that. I was at work and uh, installing satellite systems, and I'm in the bathtub, and he comes walking through the bathtub, and it's just like you can feel the electricity in the room, just boom, and it's something that hits you so hard it just kind of startles you. Your
Yeah.
body just kind of, oh,
Yeah.
And he's the same guy who showed up. He's more like my father than
Okay.
anybody else that I know, because he comes in, he's very direct, and he's to the point, and there's no mistaking what he's doing or why he's there. And he hasn't got time for your jokes, your laughter, humor. He doesn't understand what all that is. He just I was doing an open eye meditation one time because I was really feeling sick. I think I wrote this on my blog site as well. And I was really feeling sick and I couldn't get over my chest colds. They were just kept they hitting me like pneumonia. Bronchitis was really bad. It was settling
Mm,
deep into my lungs. And so I took a couple of days off work and I'm sitting in my bed, just staring at a point on the wall. And the wall just kind of gives way. And he comes walking in and he looks at me. He's got this little vial in his hand. Just it's like maybe about this tall, maybe about this big around. It's just a little vial filled with pink fluid of some sort. And he just looks at me, he hands it to me, and it's like Alice in Wonderland. He says, "Drink this." Yeah. I like, okay, I'm not in the mood to argue with you. So I drank it, handed it back to him, and he turns around, and he walks away. That was the whole conversation right there. Drink this, you know, very
wow.
direct. So I turned over, I went to sleep. I woke up the next morning, my lungs were cleared up. I felt really good. But when I drank it, it wasn't like I was drinking anything. I just stuck it up to my lips and it sort of sucked in, sucked in,
Oh,
right? It just kind of
so it was
absorbed
like
into me. So
energy instead of liquid, or was like a
yeah, it looked like it was liquid, but it was kind of an energy drink, I guess. I don't know.
okay,
Yeah.
a
And
different kind of energy drink. Yeah.
I've never had a cold since. I've never had anything settle in my lungs
Oh wow.
ever since
Oh, that's
then.
awesome.
Yeah. So it's like, wow. Yeah.
I'm gonna
That's
have to
pretty
ask
cool.
my peeps to bring me something like that.
Yeah.
I got
That doesn't
allergies.
mean that doesn't mean I didn't catch a little bit of the COVID or, maybe have a dry infection, but there's never any fluids that drop
That
down in my lungs
oh,
ever.
that's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
So
Is he bald like the Anunnaki, or does he do you know what he looks like
he's got his
physically?
hair pulled back and it's in a little bun on the
It's in a
back.
bun. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if he let it down, I think that's probably why I got my look, because he looked a lot like that. But I got my hair
Right.
balled up right there, then it would be the same kind of a look.
Does
And he's
he
got a gray type of suit on with little purple lapel
okay.
and some sort of insignia on his shirt as well. And his
Okay.
partner I met on the ship. Her name is Andromeda,
Hmm.
and I've always wondered about that because
Yeah.
that's what we call a star system out there. Yeah. But she said her name is came to me as Andromeda, and that's more like mom.
Okay.
Okay, so
Okay.
those two are like parent type of figures. So,
Like
in
your
fact, I was
star.
walking around with her on the outside of the ship, and I was having some, when I was 24, she was the one who showed up and gave me a guided tour, and she showed up, and I was having some health problems. I looked at her and said, "Man, can you heal me?" It's like because it felt like I knew her from long, long. We were just really tight.
Yeah.
I just looked at her and said, "Man, can you heal me? I'm having these really severe stomach problems, IBS or something like that." And she laughed at me. And I'm like, "What the hell? Hey, I'm asking you seriously." And she just placed her hand on my shoulder, looked me straight in the eyes, and she says, "Don't worry, you're going to be okay." And I was, but I just like, oh, okay. You forget about the conversation, you just keep on walking.
Wow.
So there's some
That's
healing.
amazing.
Yeah.
So maybe yeah, it sounds like I mean they try to teach us all the time, that our any physical ailments are mind related, right?
Yeah. I think some of them are actually entity related too that can be that because I've
Mm,
had the opportunity where I've gone in and well, I ran across this lady at a camping an outing that we were on for about four or five of us, and I noticed that there's this little gremlin thing kind of shadowing. It was on her shoulder, and I told her about that. She says, "Oh yeah, the Catholic Church knew about it, and they tried to get rid of it, and it went for a while, and then it came back. So they tried to do some sort of exorcism on it, and it didn't work.
wow.
So she says, "Can you do something about it?" I said, "Well, I can try." So I did, and I said, "Hey, look, this thing's attached to your illness. If I get rid of it, you're going to end up in the hospital. Do you want me to get rid of it?" She says, "Yes." And so I did. And, a week later, she ended up in the hospital. So it's
Wow.
like,
Why did
it
she end
was,
up in the hospital? if the entity
She
is.
had some intestinal things going on that the best way to describe it is the creature was, it looked like a little imp, maybe it's about this tall, you know, a little imp gremlin type of looking thing. And it was kind of holding things together because just,
It was
you
keeping
know,
the keeping it in her body, or it was feeding off it. Is
yeah,
that what you're saying, or keeping
it
it
was a
in her body?
combination of both.
Okay.
It's like if you attract a demon or a parasite or something out there in the world, which they're around us all over the place, um, they will attach it to you, and a lot of times they'll feed off or cause an ailment and then keep you alive with that ailment just because they like the feel of the energy that's surrounding it. Okay. So if you get rid of it, now that ailment is exposed and it has freedom to do whatever it's going to do biologically to your body. It's kind of the center of, if you get a, if your chakra gets all out of balance, one of your chakras gets all out of balance, all out of whack, then it has a tendency to cause certain ailments to pop up associated with that chakra in your body,
Right.
right?
Right.
And it's kind of the same thing. It's kind of the energy that's holding the thing together to feed off of you, so
So
to
it's
speak.
attracted to imbalance,
Yes,
any kind
yes,
of imbalance or
yeah,
sharded energies or something like that.
yeah.
That would, okay.
And it's the imbalance that's caused by your chakra being all out of whack that it sticks to you in the first place,
Yeah.
and it causes it to get worse
Right.
because your chakra's out of balance, even though you may
So
think,
it's,
hey, I can clear it up. And it gets worse, but it keeps it contained until it's gone. And once it goes, boom, it
yeah.
just, you know, intensifies.
Okay.
And
So
so,
once it's because it was feeding off it, so it was maybe less severe symptoms until the entity is
yeah,
removed, and then the body takes on all the symptoms after when the entity is removed. Is that kind
yeah,
of
it allows, it's like a pressure cooker.
yeah, okay.
Okay. It keeps it inside the pressure cooker. Once it's gone, it's like, boom, okay, boom, we're going
Okay. So now it can
to,
heal.
yeah, now it gets in the process to heal, but it gets worse at first. And so it got worse with her. So she had to go to the hospital to get it taken care of.
So
Yeah.
like a detox.
So that way I knew that the entity was gone, but I felt bad for her.
But she needed to go through the steps
Yeah.
to yeah.
Yeah.
Whoops, my
Yeah.
battery's running low. I forgot to plug in my battery here or my computer. Um, excuse me.
So, and I find that the way it is with most entities, they are there because of an imbalance in your system somehow in the first place. So it's like
Yeah,
your chakra creates the aura, your chakras create the aura. If they're healthy, you have a strong chakra, you have a strong aura around you, and they keeps everything at bay because there's stuff running around here that you can't see all the time.
sure. Yeah,
You
was
you
it like
walk, yeah, you walk in the
99% of
yeah,
reality?
you walk into the grocery store and you come home carrying something. You say, "What the hell?" Or you do
Right.
some work on somebody and you pick up their physical traits and you say, "Well, that's not me. Why am I doing this?" You know, type of thing. And then you can connect it and say, "Okay, I was working on this individual," and you got to release it really well and do that.
Yeah, I teach that in my classes. It's so important to release, release, release. That's
Yeah,
something
yeah,
my guides taught me right away. And is
yeah.
release, release. That's my mantra. Release, release, release.
Yeah,
Let
it's
go,
so
let go.
important. There
Yeah.
are a couple times I did some work for some people and I'm walking out and the next morning I'll wake up and my back will be really stiff and I'll be really sore and I have a hard time getting around. It's like, oh, damn it, man, I needed to release that. And then the minute you release it, next morning you wake up and you're fine, you're healthy again, you're feeling
Right.
great.
Yeah.
So you do pick up those tendencies sometimes. So
Oh
it's
yeah,
like
totally. We get busy and
that,
we forget to do that
yeah,
work, right?
yeah.
So I wanted to also ask you, have you had any experiences with, you mentioned that Raphael has a uniform on, right? Do you have any
Hmm.
experiences with the being on ships, as you know, flying your own ship or being in uniform or part of a space program? Because I'm having lots of memories about that kind
Um,
of thing.
That I have run across people who have been abducted who look at me and say, "Hey, you were the pilot on that ship." I'm like, "Okay, I don't remember that." And I think there are actually clones of us out there, to be honest with you, that are
Hmm.
it's there's a I have, and to answer your question, yes, I have flown ships before. Okay. And one of those came to mind after this awakening experience, like I was talking about, to where I was on this ship, and it is very much like that Area 50, Bob Lazar. Okay. I ran across the video. He described the ship exactly that I had piloted,
Wow.
except the chairs were different. And some people will bring this up and say, "Oh man, the chairs there." No, that wasn't like Pablo's Ark because it didn't have the chairs, man. I was like, that's something that's very easily moved around, dude.
Yeah.
It's not,
Whatever. Yeah.
it's like whatever, use your head. But I was sitting in this kind of like an egg. You remember back in the 60s or 70s, whenever it was, they had those chairs that had the headphones in them and they looked
Yeah.
like eggs,
Yeah.
and you'd sit in it and
Yeah.
you'd be able to
They
hear
make
what
those
was going.
hanging chairs now like
Yeah,
that. Yeah.
yeah. It was something similar to that, except it had armrests on it, and you were able to just kind of sink your fingers into the armrest, and that would kind of give you the support and make sure that you would be able to function the armrest like you needed to, because you'd go this way with the armrest and help control the ship.
Okay.
So by sitting in that chair and in the armrest, you were biologically, it was like you were the mother chip, I mean
Right.
the big chip,
Right.
and it could connect into you and it could get a good feel of where you want to go, what you want to do, and then you just kind of, you know, go with the flow. By
Yeah.
if you go like this way, your ship is going to tilt and go that way. If you go this way with the arms, because they're synchronistically involved. So if you go down like this, push the arms down, you're going to go whoosh down. And
That's
so
so funny. I have a memory of being taught how to fly one of those.
yeah,
The ship is like an egg, and I remember thinking of that pacer car
yeah,
afterwards. And it was during an astral projection, whatever we want to call it, out of body experience. And I was being taught, and I had my hands on something, and and also had an eye thing on one of my eyes, and where I moved my eyes, it would go. Where I moved my hands, it would go, and so that's crazy that you're talking about that because I hadn't heard
yeah,
anybody
yeah.
talk about that.
It is, and the ship, but the seat itself was just suspended in the air in the center of the ship. It wasn't attached to anything. It was just sitting there.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I'm looking in front of me, and Bob Lazar was saying, "Hey, there's a panel that's going across there, and it's the height for like a child, which is where the Grays were standing. They were standing in front of this panel, and they had colored buttons there. So that
Mhm. Whoops, I can't hear you. Did I lose you? Okay. I lost you for a second.
are you still with me?
Uh, can you hear me?
Yeah, I think my speaker went off here, so on my phone. So hold on.
Okay. Okay.
Oh, there we go.
Okay.
We're good.
All right. So I didn't hear the part where it said after Bob Lazar said the Grays were standing in front of the panel.
Yeah,
Okay.
they were standing in front of the panel with the little buttons. These buttons were colored buttons. They were like orange and yellow and different colors. And so they were just like doing some sort of work with these buttons, right?
Uh-huh.
And in front of them was the wall of the ship. And it just looked like a flat wall right there, a silver wall. And then they pressed one button and boom, it gave way and it looked like a great big window you were looking out of. It was like a high def window. In fact, it was like I've got an OLED TV in here, and it was like the picture quality was like OLED TV. I could look through it and I could see the Grays walking down on the forest floor, and we were up above the trees and watching them. And so
Wow.
whenever we take off, we go to the middle of the universe someplace. I
Oh,
don't.
wow. Oh, that's
Yeah,
crazy.
yeah, yeah.
That's good.
But he described that exact same scene, and he had his stuff going on after I I had already had my experience. So he was describing exactly what I'd been on. I'm thinking, the guy, think of what you will, the guy had something happen to him. He knew
Yeah.
something and he had been somewhere.
Oh yeah, I believe he was telling the truth. Yeah,
Yeah.
there's no doubt in my mind. Because people are starting to remember their experiences, and a lot of these people that have been talking for a while, like you, and lots of people are confirming these people's experiences themselves.
Yeah,
People
I
are
have a
starting
friend
to
who's,
remember.
excuse me, I have a friend who's a remote viewer, and he described, I do something called consciousness sharing, is what they call it. It's kind of like advanced remote viewing.
Mm-hmm.
That's what they taught me to do. And he got back with me and says, "Hey, there's some interesting stuff that describes exactly where you've been, what you've done." I'm like, "Wow, so you we're verifying each other's stories, you know,
Nice,
kind
nice.
of cool." Yeah.
That's cool when that happens. And the more people I hear talking about things, the more it confirms my experiences too. And um, yeah, that's
Yeah.
awesome.
Well, for years and years and years, I was really confused about what I was doing because I would leave my body. And if you ever had theta healing, it's kind of like a theta
Mm-hmm.
thing. You go up to the top of your body and you get your bearings and you take off and you go do whatever you're going to do.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was really confused because I asked the guys one time, I said, "What is it what I'm doing? I don't understand what's happening," because I knew it wasn't remote viewing. I knew it wasn't astral projection, but I didn't know what it was. Yeah, he says, "Oh, that's," and they came back and said, "That's consciousness sharing." I'm like,
Oh wow. Okay.
I don't understand what it means still. It's consciousness sharing. Who am I sharing consciousness with? What's going on there? How's this happening? Which I didn't have, they said I figured out, type of thing. Yeah.
That's interesting because I have a lot of experiences where I just shift into,
Yeah.
and that it's in the theta state. It's usually when I'm just waking up, and but I'm awake, but I'm so relaxed. Like I heard you mention you've been in the Monroe Institute. So have I a few times, and so the body asleep, mind awake state, that theta state, and so I
Hmm.
just shift into a extremely, I mean, a real experience just like this, and I'm on another planet, or I'm on a ship, or I'm,
Yeah, exactly.
yeah,
Yeah.
and I'm there
Yeah.
just as
Yeah.
real as this, if sometimes even more real.